Listen, I got a deal on that genomic thing for $1,500, I want you to know. No, I'm joking. Hi, everybody. Madam Treasurer, Madam Controller, thank you for being here. Statewide officials, it's a big deal that they're here. So let me tell you why I came, other than Fiona breaking my arms and all of our friends. But aside from that, I think I bring value to the conversation. As was mentioned, I served as a leader of the California Assembly, where Fiona served, and Majority Leader of the State Senate. And by that virtue, I got to see the inside of the belly of the beast, how stuff is really made, what really goes on, and how to make public policy. But in addition, I have spent many years as an entrepreneur, and I have the cuts and the bruises of being a startup entrepreneur on a global basis. I know how tough it is to raise money, to deal with the often insanity of the regulatory hurdles, and so many of the day-to-day business challenges of meeting a payroll and making sales. And particularly in payroll, you got to pay everybody else first and you get paid last. So I bring that perspective to my topic. Building a stronger future for California, a discussion on strategic initiatives and future plans aimed at enhancing the economic and social landscape of California. One heck of a heavy topic. Reading the news today, everybody, we all know that one might say California has fallen off the face of the earth. No housing for folks who want it, homeless people all over the place who can't afford a home, who are impaired and flood the streets of California. The crazy number of lawsuits, difficult labor laws, cost of living, the number of reports of folks who are moving away from California. What could I share here today to cause you to believe anything different, other than to get the hell out of California and invest someplace else? That's not what I'm going to promote. And this, ladies and gentlemen, for those who've been around for a while, is not the first gloom and doom story about California. Nearly 35 years ago, the cover of the November 18th, 1991 Time magazine screamed, "California, the endangered dream." In a series of articles, Time wrote, California's fabled magnetism is reversing itself, and the very qualities that lured millions to Californians for 50 years are threatening to disappear. Among other dire observations, Time basically said that we're choking on smog and no new industry will come to California, and that was in 1991. And ladies and gentlemen, everybody in this room know that that was before Apple, one of the biggest companies in the world, to Google, which incorporated on September 30th, 1998, and the hundreds of new Silicon Valley, Silicon Beach, Orange County, and San Diego bio and tech firms that we all see, like Qualcomm and others. And we also note that the Air Quality Management District here in Southern California called nearly 50 Stage 1 smog alerts in 1990 and 0 in 2013. We are making progress. The point worth making over and over is that current observers are not good predictors of the future. So often what appears to be insurmountable is not informed by the newest innovators, and new policymakers. And despite the current gloom and doom, much of which is 100% accurate, I am optimistic about California. Somewhere, and I'm going to talk to you about that, somewhere in my reading I ran across a quote that said, an optimist is someone who doesn't have all the facts. Well, here are some relevant facts that support my optimism. I am bullish on the fundamentals, and I will share some of my important observations that inform my optimistic way forward. First, California is magic. Despite the fires and the earthquakes and politics that we still attract extraordinary people from all around the world, and many of whom are in this room here today, from the Netherlands and beyond. People just want to be a part of California. I have traveled the world. I have been to every province, special district, autonomous region, and municipality in China, and I have never met anybody who says they want to move to Biloxi, Mississippi, or St. Louis, or Maine. Everybody cares about California. It's just the way it is. The magic is extraordinary. The California, for those, I'm a California historian, was named after a mythic island referred to in a book written in 1541 called The Exploits of Esplandian. And it was a story, a Spanish story, of this mythic island called California, ruled by women, naked black women draped in gold. And it was this incredible place. And so when the Spaniards who heard these stories came to California in their ships back in the 1500s, and they saw California, it was what was in their mind's eye of this great place, California. And that magic has informed who we are since then and continues to inform it today in every province from Wuxi to Wuhan to Wuhu to Cardiff, Wales, to every place in between. You can't deny the magic. Second, money. Money. People want to talk about all the other BS. Money is always the bottom line. 51% of all venture capital through the United States is raised in California. $104 billion in 2022. Nothing compared to New York was peanuts. All these other states, peanuts. Everybody's still coming here for the money. Third, as I'm told, Fiona said, I wasn't here earlier, but it was referenced in some of the other remarks about the treasure, innovation. Innovation dominates in California. By one measure, just one measure, in 2021, 46,564 patents were issued in California. 46,000. The next closest 10 didn't even come close to that. People are here that are innovating and coming up with new ideas from all parts of the world. Next, it's also, I'm told, that Fiona said talent. And listen to this. In physics, chemistry, medicine, between 2013 and 2023, California earned 18 Nobel Prizes in the sciences. And the next closest was something like 5 by New York, and everybody else was 1 and 2. California is the place that attracts talent from all corners of the planet. And fifth, the 10 campuses of the University of California occupy 6 of the 15 top positions and generate nearly $50 billion in economic activity. And there are 4 science institutes that were created by, when I was speaker and Gray Davis was governor. The institutes of innovation and transfer centers are working collaboratively with hundreds and hundreds of businesses and startups engaging in technology. I just was on the phone working with some folks at the University of California, San Diego, coming up with a new battery to replace the lithium-ion battery that's significantly safer, half the price, and just one of the many, many innovations. And also, we have the California voters twice passed billions of dollars for the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, dealing with some of this stem cell stuff, some of the science stuff that we've talked about here, that have incubated so many companies. Driving down here this morning, I was on the phone with a number of professors at USC who've been collaborated with City of Hope, collaborated with Caltech, and with UC Santa Barbara on coming up with a new technology that helps you blind people get their sight back. Extraordinary. If you want to invest, let me know. They're looking for money. And sixth, California is a small business state with deep resilience. 4.15 million small businesses. Small business is defined as a business less than 500 people. And so and that represents 99.8% of all businesses. So sure, we have problems. A lot of people don't like the labor laws, don't like some of the other challenges, the high cost of living and education, which I'm going to talk about, and they move to other states, Tennessee, Georgia. You see these other places, Texas and Florida. But the bottom line about resiliency that's important is you're not going to beat up all these small businesses. And it's informed by the innovation and the creativity and the imagination of folks who are trying to deal with the California dream. It is so extraordinary. So look, there are many positive fundamentals that look favorably on California and that, in my judgment, negate the very bad news that people like to write about in newspapers that are trying to make sales. Here are some of my observations from my experience in all 58 counties of California, all 482 cities of California, that I think that inspire what is named for this great place for Queen Calafia. Just no clothes. I had Queen Calafia in my backyard, if you remember Fiona, but I put clothes on her, and I made a statue of her. But any event, number one, let me just give you some context that I think are important. The bullet train. Everybody wants to, since I started going to China in '86, they got 17 bullet trains. Pretty amazing. We can't get ours done. I stood on the floor of the legislature in 2001 and argued for a $9 billion bond, and the damn thing's still not built. And everybody wants to call it the train from nowhere. Well, let me tell you something about the bullet train. The Central Valley of California is larger by population than 38 states. It is an extraordinary place. The bullet train will transform it in a very big way. The bullet train will impact housing. Where's Mr. Lau here? Is he still here? He was doing some housing stuff. There he is. In a very big way. It will provide opportunities for us to build lower-cost housing in central part of California. There's 230 different kinds of crops that are grown. We feed the world. Those crops are being dramatically impacted by AI and new technologies with radio frequency devices, with all new ways to grow crops. We feed the world, and I think we're going to continue to feed the world in a big way. So I look at the high-speed rail as a catalyst for something that's going to be really important that most people don't think about. They only look at it as, oh, it took us a long time. But once it's built, it will change things. If you look at the history of California, the newspapers talked about the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a pipe dream. It's never going to work. Now more people cross there than ferries in 4 minutes a day. People thought Hoover Dam was never going to work. It was a joke. When you read the papers of those days, it is always, as I said, the predictors of the current that just don't understand the future and what that really means. Second, California's aggressive goals in the environmental space are going to be transformational, and they're already impacting the economy. There's no internal combustion engines in California to be sold after 2035. 100% net zero by 2045. That's not very far away. Those impact so many endeavors. BYD in Lancaster, as we know, Build Your Dreams, the company that I used to buy my batteries from in Shenzhen, is building electric buses. There's green hydrogen going up. The Japanese are really, really big on that. I'm going to the Consul General's home on Sunday night. There's a whole bunch of people working in that space on a global basis. Lithium Valley down in the Salton Sea. I think you're going to see extraordinary level of economic commitment from that. And what happens in California, it impacts the whole country. Back in the early 70s, Governor Brown, when we called him Governor Moonbeam, basically created an energy commission. And that energy commission set standards for appliances at people's homes. And those appliances, everybody says, oh my God, this is going to kill everything. Well, guess what? The whole country adopted those standards for purposes of what energy consumption were in appliances. We did the same thing. When I was speaker, we passed these renewable portfolio standards, and we passed tailpipe emission standards. Everybody says, oh my God, this is horrible. Well, guess what? Barack Obama and everybody adopted those across the country. It does inform the leadership and the magic of California. Its ability to lead across the country in these kinds of things, and which then draws the attention of so many creative folks, it informs the underlying position. The privacy laws. We passed the first privacy law in California, which includes AI. I'm confident that we have 41 bills now pending in the legislature. Last week I was up at Stanford working on AI with legislative leaders from around the country. I'm told that there's 50 new bills a week being introduced around the country. But people are looking to California to come up with a framework like we did on privacy, on AI, and I think that's going to be a big play going forward. Next, the pandemic impacted the way we work and the way we live. More and more folks working from downtown, and climate policies, reducing vehicle travels, miles traveled. Fred's doing a big thing out where I live in terms of changing these whole building structures of what's going to happen. We in Los Angeles just passed HLA, an initiative that increases a bicycle ridership in a dramatic way. Now, I'm not a bike rider, I'm not that great of an athlete, but there's a lot of people that are. And fundamentally, when you look at the environmental policy, when you look at the planning policy of what we're doing, I think you're going to see a significant shift of people moving more toward downtown centers. These places that used to have people that work there, now we're going to have people living in there. and working where they're living. That's fundamentally shifted. And there's a series of laws, details of which I can't go into, that we've passed all across the state that are going to change that architecture. Now, we see that in some European countries, in Amsterdam and the like, but I think you're going to see a lot of that happening here in California. Next, education, critically important. The education system in California sucks. We're at the bottom of the barrel. People want to leave because education's crappy. I think you're going to see AI dramatically impact that. Why? Because every kid can have a tutor. Every kid can learn at their own pace. Every kid can focus on things that matter to them. I was with this, what's this actor's name? His wife is the Ukrainian lady. Smart guy, what's his name? Ashton Kutcher. I was with Ashton Kutcher the other day at some deal for Nicholas Bergoon was doing, and he tells us that he's got a teddy bear for his kid that talks to his kid and trains his kid, and he can tell the teddy bear what to say and what not to say. He's a big techo guy. I don't know much about that stuff, but I mean, it's extraordinary what you're going to see start happening. Because when you look at opportunities for housing, you look at education, you look at what the structure, social structure is going to be with respect to communities. That's why I'm optimistic. Politics is upside down today. People are pointing fingers at each other, and it's crappy. But the bottom line is as an analyst, you want to look at the fundamentals about money, about innovation, about the fundamental attractiveness of a community and the like. And so that's what informs my optimism. Was mentioned earlier about hackers and ransomware people. You know, the blockchain's going to change that whole game. The internet and the reliability and security of the internet is literally around the corner. I mean, the energy issue and some of the other issues on blockchain, but we are doing stuff in the legislature. We're doing stuff in California. And I think you're going to see those kinds of things shift and give us a lot more confidence. And then the other thing and Governor just mentioned this today in his statement talking about the budget and the volatility of the budget. I think you're going to see California changing its tax code in a way that avoids the volatility. We recently have, when you read the newspapers, $100 billion surplus, and now we've got a downturn in terms of surplus and a big hole. You know, when I was working with Schwartz and Schnitzel, we did this stuff on rainy day funds. We now have 4 rainy day funds that you have. But that's just a Band-Aid. That doesn't solve the underlying architecture. I do think there's some seriousness of purpose about fixing the tax code, which will fundamentally move away from the arguments about California falling in the ocean and everybody want to beat us up all the time. So, you know, and the other thing that I just put it out there in terms of offering up a larger vision is I'm hoping, Madam Treasurer and Madam Controller, that we do a sovereign wealth fund like they do in Norway and Singapore and the like. And the reason why a sovereign wealth fund is important, where you put money away and you invest it, is that instead of working on the backs of people every day and taxes going up and down, it gives you a fund that can produce capital, and the capital can pay for a lot of the services that are necessary. And I know there's some discussions about that. We put that in the privacy measure, where we gave Fiona the money, and you know, as soon as all these fees and fines come in, she gets 93% of them. And then lastly, which Peter here, you know, from the Netherlands is here, the governor is traveling to Europe this next week to go see the Pope. He just signed an agreement with South Korea. He signed a series of MOUs with China. The King of Norway was just in California recently. California is fourth largest, people say the 5th, but I think it's the 4th largest economy. And when I was fortunate enough, and when I travel with Fiona and the like, when you travel the world, you get treated like you're head of state. You don't get treated like you're, you know, from Mississippi or South Dakota. It's a whole different world. It just is. Because California just has a dramatic impact, as I suggested at the opening of my remarks. And what we're doing now with this governor and what we're doing in this state, and our lieutenant governor is former ambassador, is we're really starting to treat ourselves like a nation state. And I think that the impact of that will have a great benefit. I was the chair of Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation in 2004 and 2011, and we worked so hard to work internationally. on things. And I see that level developing. And I see more and more other countries looking to deal with us. And I think the economic outcome from that in predicting where California is going to go is going to be strong. It's going to be important. So when I look at those kinds of things, I think that's really, really a big deal. All I would say, and I think this is a really important point, my only counsel is that when you're a foreign country and you come to this country, just like when I go to China or I went to Cardiff, Wales with my factory or whatever else it may be, you gotta respect the local folks, man. Figure out what you're gonna make, how much your internal rate of return is for what you wanna make on your product. But hire labor unions to do your work. They'll help you like crazy get jobs. They'll help you getting your necessary approvals. Respect the local culture. I was married to someone who was on the board of General Motors, and when they went to China, man, Shanghai Motor Corporation made them 50%, now it's 51%. You gotta do that, you can make money. What's happening is that a lot of solar companies, for example, because of what's happening internationally, are moving here. LONGi is opening a big factory, 1,100 people in Ohio. JA Solar is opening a factory in Arizona. You got BYD, there's a bunch of other folks where that integration and sensitivity to the international economic dynamic is so important. But I just tell people that looking here, investors, they always look at the short-sighted stuff. If it costs a few more dollars to deal with the local landscape, just do it. There's a real sensitivity to that. And I think it's wrong, and I think it's a big mistake why you get these tensions. You know, in the South, go look at what Mercedes did. What state is that? Is that Georgia? Alabama? Yeah, Alabama. Or go look at what Toyota did. Is that in Tennessee? These guys are heroes in those communities because they worked it really well. I've watched them do it. And I've worked with the leadership. I bumped into the Speaker of the House of where was he from? Seth Hammett. I think it was Georgia or South Carolina, I can't remember. In London, when I was working on my solar stuff, I go, what are you doing here? They beat you up for traveling. He goes, no, are you kidding? In my state, they love me for traveling because I'm bringing business home. And so I think that where we are in the continuum, I think we're in kind of a hiccup politically that's somewhat challenging. But I think that's just noise, right? Stick with the fundamentals. Stick with a real diagnostic of what's happening. Take the long view. Don't be a punk in the system. You know what I mean? It's really important. Otherwise, we'll be making a lot of painful mistakes that are unnecessary. So I'm full of a lot more ideas where I think California will grow economically and socially. Glass batteries, 3D printing impacting the supply chain. Disney is investing billions of dollars here in Anaheim. In LA, we're going to have a lot of investment because of the Olympics in 2028. But I want to close on this. As I think about the future, I'm reminded of a story that occurred in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. The greatest thinkers of the day were asked, what do you think the next 20 years are going to look like? And they all gave their ideas. And not one of them said the automobile. Not one of them said the automobile, which dominated everything. So the bottom line is, who the hell knows what the future is going to bring? But I must say that I would not bet against California because we have the fundamentals, and as I said, we have the magic. Thank you very much.